All right, well, thank you all for turning out so wonderfly on this lovely Boston, Massachusetts fall day. Couldn't be a more perfect day for us to gather here for this special event today. So my name is James Robson. I'm the director of the Harvard Asia Center. Today's talk is sponsored by both the Harvard Asia Center and also the Rajwali Foundation Institute for Asia. Today's talk is entitled Moving Forward, Thailand, ASEAN and Beyond. By, of course, you all know, and it's hardly any introduction, but I will give a little introduction to Kun Pita Lamjornat, the Prime Ministerial candidate and Chief Advisor for the Move Forward Party leader. Pita was educated in New Zealand and is actually no stranger to Harvard, since after receiving his undergraduate degree in finance and banking at Thammasat University in Bangkok, he then went on to earn a joint master's degree from both MIT and Harvard's Kennedy School in Business and Public Policy, which he received in 2011. He then was the CEO of Agri-Food and also served as the executive director of Grab Thailand from 2017 to 2018. He made his political debut, and I don't need to probably go through most of this history to all of you, but for those who don't know, in 2018, when he joined the Move Forward Party's predecessor party, Future Forward, where he was focusing mainly on agricultural policy. He was first elected to Parliament in 2019, where he also advocated for farmers and farmer rights. In 2019, the Thai Constitutional Court dissolved Future Forward and banned its leader from politics, and Pita and the party's remaining legislators formed the Move Forward Party. As both a successful private sector businessman and an inspirational public sector leader, he's been a courageous advocate for democratic reform in Thailand, and in that capacity led the Move Forward Progressives Party to an historic victory in Thailand's general election in May of this past year, on May 14th, which had a record turnout, by the way, of 75% of the voters casting votes in that election and securing nearly 40% of the votes. Buoyed by supporters and throngs of young voters, like I can tell the demographic out here today, and winning most of the seats in that election. But as you know, in July, he was blocked from taking power by conservative legislators. The party rose to success on this wave of support from those young and urban voters, and his bid to form a government under this coalition of a pro-democracy parties was, however, blocked by these influential senators and military-backed conservative parties. He was therefore temporarily suspended as a lawmaker by the country's constitutional court after a complaint filed by the Election Commission accused him of violating election laws. Then in September 2023, he announced his resignation as leader. He has not, however, gone away, and here we are today. And so please join me in welcoming Pita Limjaroenrat as he's looking forward.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Full house, so deja vu going through my mind. So thank you so much for coming for such a talk. And allow me to begin by thanking the Harvard University Asia Center, Harvard University Kennedy School's Rajwali Foundation Institute for Asia, Professor James Robson, Director of Harvard University Asia Center, and definitely our friends, Professor Jay Rosengard, who is in Thailand as we speak, so that we've been crossing paths for a long time and spending a bit of time on Zoom meetings. Professor Rosengard, if you hear this, next time hopefully we get to meet again. You know, traveling from Bangkok to Boston, you know, it's quite a distant, differing two cities, but I feel right at home. It's been 12 years since I graduated here, but to be back here is really something that words cannot describe. For some of you who might not know me, you know, my name is Pita Limjaroenrat. I'm the Thailand's 2023 election winner, former Prime Ministerial candidate, so still prime ministerial candidate, and most importantly, most proudly, Harvard alum of 2011. So if you're confused, you're not the only one. I mean, I'll do the justice and explain that combination in a sentence. You know, sometimes politics is hard to make sense anywhere in the world, including here in America and Thailand as well. But I'll spend some time to do that. But by now, I think you would know that I used to be one of you. I mean, I used to be in a different position. I used to probably sit somewhere right there where Dan Ginsberg, my friend right there, is sitting. But now I'm back to our viewers right here, and I'm standing right here. So I'm one of you, and I'm conscious of your time. You know, I know you have your problem sets and PowerPoint presentations and team projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight to the point. Just a few points that I wanted to make so that we can have some questions and answers later on, you know, to make sure that it's an interactive conversations. And I think the first point that I like to make is that Harvard works. It's classes like How to Run for Public Office, blocks away by Professor Steve Jarding, you know, that taught me how to run political campaigns. It's classes like Comparative Politics by Professor Pepper Culpepper. It's Competitiveness of Nations at the Business School by Professor Michael Porter. It's Political Parties in Practice. All those things that allowed me to turn textbooks into reality and to beat against all odds. We managed, I'm a rookie leader. I was, you know, running a political campaign for the first time for a 3-year-old party in a game that was designed that we lose. Gerrymandering, the way you calculate the constituencies, constitutional hardballs, but we won. You know, and because of that, I just want to ensure and send the message rather to, you know, beloved students or respected teachers that your time that you spend here, right here in Harvard, it can become a reality. And Harvard was really an integral part of my success of how I ran my political campaigns. Because of Harvard, I promised change in demilitarizing Thailand, improving the professionalism of the military, making sure they're up to speed when it comes to protecting Thais against external affairs, but never intervening in internal affairs and politics through cycles of military coups. And that's why I won. And I promised change to them, to demonopolization, because it was classes at the business school by Professor Porter that told me that competition means efficiency. So it was rather energy sector, retail sector, telecom sector, beverage sector, agricultural sector in Thailand that need demonopolization, and rather use a legal, which should be a platform for equality, as a barrier to entry for people not be able to participate in those businesses. I promised them change in decentralization. I told them Bangkok is not Thailand and Thailand is not Bangkok, so that when COVID crisis hit the country and 50% of the budget and 50% of the economy is gone because of that. Demilitarization, demonopolization, decentralization, my platform in a nutshell. And that's what gave me the victory, as well as preventing me from governance. So that's my explanation for that introduction that I gave to you. You know, 2023, Thailand's election winner by 38%, 14.4 million votes for the first time that I led a political party. Still a prime ministerial candidate, temporarily suspended on technicality, and that's why I'm here. And that's really the struggle of politics, of elected versus appointed. You see how this is how it works. There's a joint session in parliament of 750 representatives, 500 elected, lower house, 250 in the upper house, appointed by the military junta. And it's a simple majority who pass, we can all do the math, 376, I got 324. And then, we won the victory. We formed a strong coalition, that reflected the hope of the people. That change is coming here to Thailand. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Then I needed the numbers, the votes from the appointed senators. Apparently, unfortunately, 50 of them did not show up for quorum. So devil's in the detail. You need 376 divided by the number of people who were active as a whole, not active in the parliament, active on that list. So 50 of them, majority of them have promised me that they understood what was going on, decided they wanted to see change in Thailand, a structural one, not just a minimum one, a structural one in Thailand, and wanted to come and vote, but unfortunately they couldn't make it to quorum. So a quorum can overcome an elected prime minister of choice in Thailand. But that was the story. But still, it's my main message about this is loud and clear, and it should be an encouragement to all of you that your problem sets, your PowerPoint presentations, your team meetings, really matter. And you could also be speaking down here, just like me, maybe in a shorter time frame than 12 years as well. But the main message of what's going on in Thailand synchronizes with, I think, each one of you. It's not just a Thai story, that's the thing. We're gathering here at a pivotal moment. Democracy is in peril. Democracy is under siege. International peace is fragile and fleeting. When I first came here in Cambridge, 2006, according to Freedom House, 48% of the world lived in a free society. Guess what that number is today as we sit here? 20%. That's democratic backsliding. Something is going on around the world. And even the most advanced, institutionalized democracies are seeing those numbers declining as well. Why is that? My argument is this, going back in time a little bit, during the Cold War, when thriving democracies were flourishing all around the world. At the same time, there was another thing, economic structure, no matter how you call it, you could call it neoliberal capitalism or things like that. But those things that come out, if democracy is about redistribution of power, but that economic structure that came with it, neoliberal capitalism or anything, however you want to call it, it's about concentration of wealth. When I was born, the inequality in the world within countries, the top 1% and the bottom 50%, that's about eight times in terms of income inequality. And guess what that number is today? 16 times. So 8% of the richest, 8 of the richest people holds 50%, is much more than the bottom 50% of the rest of the world. And that number is essentially true in Thailand also. 1% of Thais hold 67% of the wealth. So you wouldn't blame them, would you? Of why people are questioning democracy at the same time that it's about redistributing power, but then it gives together with an economic structure that is a concentration of wealth. Add that with economic devastation that comes from COVID. So we see that all these things are coming together in a perfect storm that requires not just what's happening in Thailand, it's happening anywhere in the world, no matter where you come from. So now what do we do? How do we create a society or political structure that allows both redistribution of power and redistribution of wealth at the same time? inclusive growth. And different countries have different ways of doing it. For us, what we propose is that it's a country that focuses not just on profitability. We focus on environment, we focus on land rights, land justice, environmental rights, social welfare state that takes care of our labor, empowering them. So that's like also almost like social democracy to us. And it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree, but it's about really coming together to really think about how we create this architecture of how we proceed going forward. Now, that's Thailand, that's the first part. The second part is that, it's not just Thailand, it's all of us right here in this room. The third part is, what's that collective action that we can do together? The collective action of, achieving the unachievable. So that we can think about this, I was thinking once we took care of our problems domestically, we demilitarize, we demonopolize, and we decentralize, that's when domestic affairs is intact. And then we can start thinking about foreign policy. Because foreign policy is a reflection of domestic policy. I mean, it's very hard for you to have credibility and relevance if you go to any other parts of the world or any other countries and tell them what not to do, and then your own country and your own mess you cannot control. So I was hoping that, a last change that is just that domestic, in the sense that I wanted to tell the world that Thailand is back, and Thailand means business, and that we're a middle power. We're not a small country. We're the second largest country in Asia. I mean, and together working with the ASEAN countries, if not all, at least the founding members of ASEAN, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. And if we come together, that's $3.6 trillion in terms of economy. That's 670 million people. Any other countries in the world, whether you're a superpower or not, you cannot ignore us. But the point is, because we couldn't take care of our problems domestically, that we don't have the credibility to be like at the core of ASEAN. To really make ASEAN centrality matter is that relevance and credibility have to be right in the middle of it. Myanmar, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas. These are the things that are happening far away from Thailand, but is really impacting what's going on in Thailand. 56 hostages by Hamas, number 2 in the world. 54 or 56, you have to fact check me. But I think that's according to Israel Foreign Affairs, but it's 18 according to Thai Foreign Affairs. All these things are the things that we really need to look outward to make sure that, we are part of the international community, that we, together with the ASEAN founding members, that we are telling the world that right makes might, and might doesn't make right. That we're returning to middle power, returning together and say that rule-based world order. Thailand is back. Thailand means business. It's meaning that we are reviving foreign policy once again after the absence of maybe the past 10 years during the military coup. We want to be able to rebalance once again. And rebalance in this sense is not taking sides. It's about sticking to principles. We want to be able to criticize our friends and talk to our foes as a middle power. We want to be able to recalibrate the issues of foreign policies when it comes to ties. Usually it's about trades and investment and security alliance with the US. But we want to recalibrate that to be about environment, to be about climate change, to be about gun safety, to be about gun laws. My condolences to the victims, 22 of them in Maine. Our country also faced something very similar at a mall that was done by a 14-year-old. So those are the things that we could recalibrate and share our grief together and learn together and how to come up with solutions together. But the thing is, we still couldn't do that. Then again, collective actions that we needed to come together, to achieve the unachievable, to turn struggles into strength, to turn pain into prosperity, to turn values into victory together. That's really up to all of us. If you do well, but I don't show up, missing in action. If you do well, I'm missing in action. Those are the things that are absent from international architecture when it comes to peace building. So I think there's like a part for all of us to do, your part and my part, that we could come together and make this world a better place moving forward. And Thailand will definitely be in the middle of that going forward. So in the next couple of years, I still look forward to be the bridge, people to people with Americans, parliament to parliament, public sector to public sector, private sector to private sector, and lastly, government to government eventually. Thank you so much for your time. That's your turn. Your turn. Okay, cool.
No, it's not my turn. Nobody wants to listen to me here. They're all here for you. And so we have some plenty of time to field questions from the audience.
Absolutely.
Would you like me to recognize people, or would you like to do it yourself?
I'll do it myself.
Okay, good. I figured you would.
That's part of the training as well.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, let me see some show of hands. Maybe a couple of them. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Let's take 3 at a time so that I remember the question. How's that? Are we good? Alrighty. Your turn. Go ahead. Awadi Kap.
Brian Kap from Thailand, also HKS student.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much for visiting us today and giving us a speech. Just a
Technical issue. That's fine.
No worries.
That's okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Happens.
Yes, just a quick question and also sharing my concerns about our countries, right? As we all know, we have been in stagnant growth over the past 10 years, rising debt to GDP. I think I would like to hear from you on your perspectives on, for the future of Thailand, right? Apart from demilitarization, decentralization, and demonopolization, what are the key target sectors that the future policy should address that could be the growth engine for Thailand, and how do we see we should implement that?
Okay. The second question, please. I'll take rounds of questions so that people can get to ask. How much time do we have for this room?
We have plenty of time.
Okay.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. My name's Satomi. I'm half Thai, also MPID, so HKS, as well as dual degree with HBS. One of the things that I think a lot of us who come to higher education here wish to go back to do is change the country, which you obviously have done, but it's obviously a very uphill battle. So what is your advice in terms of staying motivated? What is your advice for new grads in terms of how you should sequence, how you want to change the world? Do you go straight into it, or do you think of it as maybe the first 10 years building up the skill sets to then be effective? So more of a personal question for you.
Okay, gotcha. Number 3, please. I understand that it was Professor Said. Are you exercising your rights, or are you?
Thank you very much. So I'm Michael Hertzfeld. I'm the founding director of the Thai Studies program, now out to pasture, but very happy to see so many people here for this wonderful event, and to thank Kun Pita for really a remarkable of really important points in a very short speech. So I will try to be equally brief. It's often said that Thailand is a land of compromise. I have, in my own research work, have focused on the fact that you have a constant tension in Thailand between authoritarian and egalitarian impulses. The impulse for democracy has always been there, but so has the other thing. And the other thing is the elephant in the room in more ways than perhaps we want to enumerate. So is there a way forward that actually overcomes the invocation of that compromise, which has been used again and again and again to subvert the democratic process? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll take all 3 questions first and answer, and then we'll do a second round. Is that cool with you? Oh, good? Yes. The first question was more about, economic prosperity for the past 10 years, rising debt to GDP, and key target sectors. My short answer to you is we have to recognize problems and turn them into assets. If you focus only on our assets, tourism, export-led, and all those things, you could improve it, but then there's very limited amount of rooms for you to actually proceed, as well as the inequality side of it that I was telling you about. So how do we come about inclusive growth? Is turning our liability, national liability, poor water sanitation, lack of internet infrastructure, measuring the map of each land so that you give land justice to the indigenous people. All these things are pain points, if you are from the business school as well. This is like the pain points that we could turn into industries that Thailand could really master. And once you master it in one district, you could expand it through the entire region. And then you can do it nationally. And then you can do it throughout our neighboring countries in ASEAN. Imagine if you just turn tap water into drinking water. You need some measuring flows, and you need some IoT devices in order for you to check if the quality of the water is good, and provide that to the 76 districts all around Thailand. What kind of industry is that? It's like changing the environment. It's about giving people the public good that they deserve. EV bus, transportation in Bangkok, as Professor would know, is horrendous. And also the air pollution coming out of it. I was just speaking to another nominee of Time 100 Next, and all they said about Bangkok and Chiang Mai was about the pollution. But if we find a secret sauce that takes care of all these problems and turn them into potential, problem into potential, and that's how you create growth, and also taking care of it in a commercial side, as well as something that's good for the people as well. So that would be my answer. Second part, personal question. In two sentences, be bold, be ambitious. And I think really Thailand, the country, and the world really needs a younger juice, a younger generation creativity of ideas that mix up and find new consensus in new normal. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I mean, the world has changed so much. When I was sitting in your seat and I'm standing here that 12 years, the new normal that comes from COVID crisis, from the pandemic, from decoupling, you name it. But the problem with this world is that we have old consensus in new normal. But so how do you create new consensus? Is that the younger generations have to speak up. We needed to speak up. Otherwise, it will be left to a certain generation that matters. But again, otherwise, the future that you probably have, or I for sure I have about 40 years left if I live to an average life, and it's a large amount of future that matters to me and my child. So you have to be bold and be ambitious and really contribute as fast as possible. The right time is now. So try it out as young as possible and try your best. And if you fail, you could always try again. So that would be my advice. Third, to Professor, how do we come about this land of compromise and also the struggle, of democracy and competitive authoritarianism for the past 90 years? I think it's about the right infrastructure and the right culture. As of now, there's really hard infrastructure and constitutional hardballs that would prevent elected officials to assume power to govern. It's really coming to domination of ideas through soft power to really show that Thailand has changed, and we want to really have a culture that demands a change. And so to the extent that could be collapsed from within. And these terms, I have to give credits to Harvard professors. Tyranny of the minority, for example. Those are the things that have a robust opposition, you have robust media, you have international scrutiny, you have collapse from within, not because you have guns and bullets, but because you have domination of ideas and you're explaining that this is a win-win solution for the country. It's just not for me, it's not just for you, but it's not even a compromise of principles, but because we have a system that allows conflict, as well as conflict management by itself. Let people speak and let people's choice govern. I can do it. Next time I'm out, people will vote me out. Let the political parties die because nobody chooses them anymore. Not because someone, made some revenue from cooking shows or, trying to come out with a proper campaign finance and disbanding political parties. This is something that takes time, but I think it's sustainable. Rather than any other choices that, is probably going through people's mind. It's a road less traveled, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's going to take time, but I think the reason why we found the party to bring about change, because I know it's slow, but it's irreversible also. So that's how we're going to go about it. We're going to win more next time. That's what we do. Okay, I'm just getting started. I don't know about you guys, but bring it on. 3 more questions, please. Maybe one from here, one from here, one from here. Okay, that's you right there. You at the back, and I'll come back to you. So, yeah. Okay, from left to the back and then to the right, please. Not just because I'm leaning, but anyways.
Right, so you know me, but my name's Tia. I'm at the Kennedy School for MPA and MBA at MIT. My question is, you talk about managing domestically. So I just want to talk about how you manage your party domestically within your party. So let's say, use an example of this so-called super deal that has been rumored in the country. And the responses from your party there's been discrepancies between the responses from your party. Some say they don't know, some say they're not related. So my question is, going forward, how would you manage responses and your explanation to your constituencies so that your message is congruent with the values that you stand for, working for the people? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Susie. I'm an MBA student at HBS.
Hi.
So I'm actually Chinese, but I worked in Thailand right before HBS, so it's my second home basically.
I see.
So I was working at a startup in Thailand, and then what I realized is that there are actually so few startups in Thailand that got to like beyond basically Series B, and investors are not really looking to invest in Thailand either. A lot of the founders are really like struggling, and I think one of the potential reason might be because there's so many like all the businesses are basically dominated by like the big families and conglomerates, and there might be other reasons too. So basically my question is what do you think is the solution to boost the like innovation and also improve the startup ecosystem environment in Thailand?
Gotcha. I'll answer. Third one, please, on the right.
Hi. Thanks. So my name is Sarvesh, and it was a really nice speech, really inspirational. Your story is really inspirational as well. So I am Indian by birth, so my question is sort of going to be on those lines. You spoke about as Thailand is moving forward and the role of other nations in the growth of Thailand, or Thailand's role in the growth of other nations as well. So how do you see like India's role as Thailand is moving forward?
Okay, thank you for the questions. First question is about party communication management. The short answer is truthfully. That's how we should communicate, and consistently. Obviously, but there's, sometimes something that's out of our control, because you were talking about coalition deals that was rumored for a very long time. I try to do that during that coalition forming with respect, with honestly with what I know and also what I didn't know. So there could be different opinions when it comes to personalities, but I think in the common ground, what we could control is that the communication in the sense of the political accountability before the election and after I got the vote. That's a kind of consistency that I think it's more important in politics. But to that extent, I still have to outright admit that my political party is young. We're going fourth year, and there's many mistakes, many things that we have to commit ourselves in improving. But luckily, I have textbooks from Harvard that taught me about how to deal with party lists, how to make sure there's no confrontation from the districts to the party centrally and things like that. So hopefully I have some guidelines, and probably some professors here will be able to help me out, especially when it comes to political parties. The second question is about startups. I think your answers is already in your question. It's really the second part, the demonopolization. Because if you want to do digital wallets, you have a majority of choice that comes from banks and retails. So in order for you to really go against these big boys, you have to move fast and break things. But in order for you to move fast, you need regulators or regulation that allows expedition. So in short, one of the barriers to entry is the law that comes from those incumbents that will lose market share should you go beyond Series B. Demonopolize. So demonopolize all those things, and making sure that just because you work in one commercial bank doesn't mean you have any say in the central bank, for example. In terms of logistics that allows ride sharing that benefit both the cars as well as the incumbent taxis. How to find common ground on that. So those are the things that we propose. But that's not just part of it. The second part of it is that we're not bold enough. In order for you to come up with startups like this, and the successful ones in Southeast Asia, they look at the region. They look at ASEAN as markets: Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Myanmar, Philippines, and Thailand. But Thai startups, we focus on Thailand. I don't know if that's just ambition or language barrier or any things, but I think there's some really good ideas in Thai startup communities that if they were to be subsidized or supported to go overseas and think of ASEAN, Asia, or the world as the market, they'll be able to succeed. And how I would go about it, I'll give you a Singaporean example that I proposed during my debates before the election. There's a fund for you to do your startups, Singaporean, but the condition is that it has to be outside Singapore. You know what I mean? So you try to incubate your startups, but if you confine yourself within Singapore, are you going to succeed? No, right? If you're confining yourself within Thailand, are you going to succeed? No. So yeah, that's the kind of ideas, that's kind of government support that allows you to make sure that there's no barrier to entry for these startups, and incubation that goes beyond domestic market. So that would be my answer. The third question is about Thailand and India, the relationship between Thailand and India.
How do you see it grow as Thailand is moving forward, like you said?
Well, I think economically, definitely is something that we have to rely on. Regional because to come with adequate vaccines, to come up with protective gears when it comes to wildfire, when it comes to 75 years fighting for land justice since their parents, it's something that they really need. Or people who's in agricultural sector who rely on subsidies, government subsidies all the time, have no choice but to sell it to the middlemen or throw it onto the floor or burn down the entire produce just because they cannot decommoditize it because the law says so that with this small amount of capital gain, the start of the capital that you have, the investment that you have is too little for you to participate in the market. So the law is going to allow you to participate in this much market. Either you stay down here or you become the top one and you can participate over there. So yeah, it's really depending on who you ask and whether it's radical or not. But I think it's safe to assume through elections result that radical is the new normal. If you ask the commoners, that would be my answer to your question. The second question comes from you, and it's about the role of military dominance in the past, maybe 50, 60 years. If you mentioned Thammasat, I would assume that is roughly the time frame that you are thinking about, and you ask for the details when it comes to demilitarization to make sure that we have a strong budget to keep up with the national security of 21st century. It's about having the right weapons. It's about fighting against cybersecurity rather than have a large amount of army personnel. They're very important, and I want to be able to take care of them and take care of their human rights with the society, have a professional career path for them. And that's really intertwined because, the amount of investment you invest in the personnel, that's really, it's a limited resource that you appropriate to the right military resources that goes against today's threat. So military conscription would be something that we propose and well accepted so that, the military is professional and it's lean, and it's really up to date at this speed. But the part of what's going on when you said, the comparison of numbers, I've never thought of the comparisons that way, but I would have to agree with you that a number of people, a number of Thais killed for speaking up for political rights or something with different opinions are probably much more from the enemies from abroad. I think it's not just about the demilitarization, but it's also introducing transparency, fact-finding, accountability, and that's the reason why even if we didn't become the government, we passed the amnesty law that would take care of all these things, fact-finding, accountability, and transparency of what happened in the past so that, we can really have justice. Usually in Thailand, we start off with, let's have reconciliation, let's have justice, and we have a very thick book about it, but we don't do fact-finding, we don't have any transparency, and we have no accountability. It's the other way around. And so that's the way I would respond to your concern and your question. The third one is about ASEAN centrality, relevancy, and credibility. My elevator speech, short, concise, turn 5-point consensus into a 5-year roadmap, and how we return democracy to Myanmar. That's in a nutshell. Come together, at least 5 of us, the founding members, to make sure that we live up to the expectations in the future, as well as historical achievements in the past. And then show people that we're credible. We mean what it's not just 5 bullet points on the paper, but it's really something that is of mutual benefits to Thailand, who share a large amount of borders, economic migrants that work in the country, to ASEAN centrality, to Asia, to America, to China. Stable Myanmar is something that is, not off the radar when it comes to global peace order. So that's something that we could do in very short. But then again, it's really thinking about the ASEAN Charter when it comes to non-interference. That kind of definition that was done way in the past. Of course, we will strictly hold to that principle of non-interference. But I think maybe we have to start to think about it again, that there's some exceptions when it comes to genocide, when it comes to crime against humanity. But if you just ignore what happens all around the world, when Myanmar sneezes, Thailand gets sick. And if you just keep ignoring that in any lens, if you don't care about human rights, you just want to think about economical lens, or you want to think about trade and investment lens, but in any other lens, I think it's quite important that we think about this kind of charter that was done a long time ago and really think about this together. But I'm not saying that non-interference, excluding genocide or crime against humanity, but it's time we come together and we come to a rule-based ASEAN together, so that it becomes a living example of what rule-based world order should mean. It's the kind of diplomacy that doesn't allow might to be a bit larger than right. Right makes might, and also it's not possible for you to allow the new world order that the bigger state can aggress smaller state. It's really something that it's a pivotal point that Thailand alone cannot do it. We have to do it with ASEAN and also collective action to achieve the unachievable. That's what I meant by that.
Do you mind if I actually take the prerogative to push that question just one step further in a final question?
By all means.
To take advantage of the fact that you are visiting the United States and also spending some time here at Harvard, and thank you for doing that. What is it, two-part question then, I imagine you're spending some time in Washington, D.C., engaging with political thinkers and politicians. And what is it that the U.S. government is missing and policymakers is missing about Thailand, and what role could the U.S. play in that in terms of engagement is one side. The other one is then related to Harvard here. As you know, the Asia Center has started a Southeast Asia initiative, which we're trying to push, and thanks to Professor Hertzfeld, the Thai Studies program is part of that. But what do you think this institution and a role that it can play to generate knowledge about Southeast Asia more generally, ASEAN and Thailand in particular, going forward, and what we can do then to educate the next generation of leaders that I see out here in the audience?
Mm-hmm. But that's the first part of two-part question. I was listening, so what's the second part?
That's the second part.
Oh, cool.
Harvard specifically. Yeah.
Oh, for Harvard too, right?
Yeah.
Mm. America and Thailand, the first alliance probably in Asia, goes back 200 years. I think the recalibration part in my 3R foreign policy, revive, rebalance, and recalibrate. We are very happy to work with the Americans on security alliance. Cobra Gold has been part of our relationship. Trade and investment, that's something you can probably see. But when it comes to Indo-Pacific strategy, according to the Americans, when it comes to digital infrastructure, environmental issues, we really want to be able to walk the talk together and really show us, a lot of Thai problems cannot be fixed with Thailand alone. It has to be done globally in all the countries that have the right resource and the best practice on how you take care of waste management, for example, mining, second, how you take care of water recycling, for example. We want to be able to see that from America in Thailand. You have the technology, we have the problem, but when it comes together, that's when potential of two countries could be. And that's what we've been missing, arguably, for the past 10 years, both from domestic politics from each side. So it's no one's fault, it's a perfect storm. And education, to your second part, we want to be able to see Harvard is actually participating with, I think, Mahidol, that's one, and then Chulalongkorn second. So there's an annual conference between two countries. But I really want to, again, focus on the problems of Thailand, what Thailand is really missing, and focus on that, rather than just keeping it on just businesses or security alliance. Recalibrate and think about environment, energy, education. Here we go. Now you remember. 3 E's.
Yes.
Sorry, I was going around the bush, but to answer his question is, how Harvard can really work with Thailand is 3 E's. Education, environment, and energy. And we've been missing you. So if, we get to rebalance, just not taking sides whether the East or the West, but also the principle of how we want to live together as the world. That would be my answer to you.
Great, thank you very much. Well, please, actually, let me mention first before, I know your hands will be clapping in just a minute, but invite you to a reception that'll be out in the concourse outside of this room, so please stay around and enjoy some food. And before we head out there, please join me in thanking Kumpita for this wonderful presentation here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.